Now that we have the software installed, we want SQL to use SQL Developer to connect to the database. So remember, Oracle 11G Express is our database. SQL Developer is a user interface to interact with this database in a user-friendly manner. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my SQL Developer, click on New Connection, and create a new connection to the database. Now, there will be some settings. Everything will be the same. The only thing that you will need to put in is the password that you chose during installation. So I'm going to come to mine. I'm going to say, click on the arrow to create a new connection. I'm going to give it a name, so I'm just going to call it System Connection. The username is System. And the password is what you chose during installation. And I'm going to click on Save Password so it doesn't keep asking me for it. And I will click on Test to make sure that I entered the credentials correctly. And here I see that the status is success. If you get the status is success, you know you've done everything correctly. So I'm going to save it and I'm going to connect. Okay, so at this point I should be connected to the database. Now, what am I going to do to test it? So on Blackboard, under Downloads, you will find a file called sampledata.sql. And this file, what I did was I clicked on it and downloaded it, and this is the contents of the file. So this file creates data and puts it in our database. We will learn every single command in this file at the right time. For now, what I want you to do is click on Control-A, which selects everything, Control-C, which does a copy, and then you're going to go to your SQL Developer and you're going to press Control-V to paste it. And then what you're going to do is you're going to click on that arrow that has a paper with it. There are two arrows. There's the single arrow and then there's the paper with an arrow. The difference between them is that the green arrow just runs a statement. So if you have just one line of code that you want to run, you would run this. But here I have a bunch of lines of code. I have a whole script of code that I want to run. So I'm going to click on Run Script. And it's going to do all the commands in there. So it's going to create some tables, insert some data for me, and it's done. So now my database has data in it. And if I click on my connection, so I created System Connection, if I click on it, on the side, there is tables. If I click on tables, you'll see a bunch of tables, but you'll also see tables that we've created. So that script that we just ran, let me just show you a couple commands from it. The top, so it has create table department. So it's creating a table in our database called department, probably to store information about a department or many departments. It created a table called employee to store information about employees. So here, let's, for example, look at employee. So if I click on employee, there is some stuff that it will show me. It will show me the information that was in that SQL file. So here it's showing me the column names that I have: employee ID, first name, last name, salary, department ID, manager ID, hire date. So it's showing me the same information that was in the table. There's more stuff that we're going to learn about later. But basically, I created a table, and here it's showing me that table, what kind of information is stored, what are the columns that I'm storing. Every column, what is the data type? What type of data is this column supposed to be? Okay, so this is how we can add information to this database. Okay, so by running this script. So that's the first thing that I want you to do. To make SQL a little bit easier for you to use, there are a couple of preferences that you might want to change. So we're going to go to Tools, Preferences. So let's do that together. I'm going to go Tools, Preferences. Okay. The first thing that I did was I went under Code Editor. Okay, so if it's minimized, you can maximize it, expand it, and I went to Fonts and I changed my font. So I think the default was 12 or 16. I made it 24 because I want it to be a little bit easier for me to see. The other thing is clicking on Line Gutter and clicking here on Show Line Numbers. this will show you line numbers on the side, and it will make it a little bit easier when you have an issue or a problem with a line to know which line it's on. So go ahead and do these two in your preferences under tools. We already did the SQL. Now there are a couple of resources that you might run into and use. So there's one that has an SQL assistant trial, like this one you can use. It's nice. I used it. W3 Schools is a very good website for SQL commands, and you'll find that I will reference it in my slides. So in my slides, every time I teach you a new command, I will show you the link on SQL for it on W3 Schools, so you can go back to it and read more information if you want to. And then there is also a reference here to the documentation from Oracle if you want to look at it. So before, well, actually, let me show you this command, and then I'm going to go back and show you the SQL command line. So the first command that we want to learn is the select statement. We created tables in our database. We inserted data using the commands that were in that script file, the SQL file that you got from Blackboard. Now what we want to do is we want to see what data was inserted. So the select statement is used to select data from the database. It lets you see information that's stored in the database. And so the way you do it is you say select, and then you can give a list of column names separated by commas, and then you say from and the table name. So for example, there is a table called customer in this file. So if I go a little down, I will see that there's a table called customer. And inside customer, there are a bunch of columns, like the customer ID, their first name, last name, address, address state, email address. So I want to see what customers are in my database. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say select first name, comma, last name from customer, and then I'm going to put a semicolon. So let's try that. Let's come here and say select first name, comma, last name from customer. And here, because it's just one command, I don't want to run the whole script. I already ran the whole script. I'm just going to click anywhere inside this command, anywhere will do, and I will click the green arrow. And what it will do, it will show me the first name and last name of all the customers in this table. So this table has 10 customers in it. Let's say I wanted to also see, let's see what else is there, their address state. So let's say I wanted to see their address state. I could also put here a comma, address state. And I'll run that command. And now it shows me for every customer what state they are coming from. Now, what if I want to see all the information? I can use the asterisk to show me all the information. So asterisk means show me all the columns in this table. And when I run it, it shows me all the columns. So it's showing me their customer ID, first name, last name, address, state, and email address. So all the information. Now, do you see how here it's in a user-friendly way? I have some row numbers, so I can easily see that I have 10 entries. I have 10 customers in my table. What we want to do now is we want to see the SQL command line that came with Oracle. How could we use it? And you're going to find that it's not very user-friendly, and it's going to make us appreciate SQL Developer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click here and go to my Oracle folder. And I'm going to click on Run SQL Command Line. And the first thing you need to do is connect to the database. And there is the command in red to do that. You don't have to have it memorized, because we're not going to really be using SQL command line after today's demo. But I'm going to say connect system. So system is the username, kind of the admin account. And this is the password that I chose. I'm just going to press enter. And now it tells me I'm connected, and I can run some commands. So I'm going to run the same command. I'm going to say select first name, comma, last name from customer, and I put my semicolon, and now it's showing me the information. And you see that it's a little hard to traverse through. So, I mean, I can go and see that I have a Teresa Hudson, Fred Montgomery, Lois Laos. So those are 3 of the customers, and then there's 3 more, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then the 10th. Very user unfriendly. So that's why we are not going to be using the SQL command line. That is why we are going to be using SQL Developer to make our life a little bit easier. Okay. So the first command that we just learned is the select command. And what I'm going to do in the next video is show you a little bit more about this command.